You're listening to a Mango Languages podcast. Language teaching is hard, but there are a lot of reasons to be optimistic. That's why we created this show, Teaching Languages Today, a podcast for world language educators about what's working and what's not. Listen in for the problems fellow teachers are facing, learn what solutions they found, and get some much-needed self-care reminders of why you fell in love with teaching in the first place. Hi, I'm Emily, your host for the show. In each episode, I'll be taking you on a journey into seeing world language ed through a new lens by sitting down with an all-star lineup of teachers, administrators, parents, and students. It's my hope that the stories you hear in this show will get you thinking and feeling different about what you do in the classroom. Well, hello friends, and welcome back to the show. Today, I got to sit down with high school teacher / social media star, Rebecca Rogers, or as her students and the world of social media knows her, Mrs. Rogers. This conversation with Rebecca was really interesting because we got into a lot of topics. We talked about the pros and cons of being active on social media as a teacher, how to find your teaching persona when just starting out in your career, how to decide which technology is going to work for your classroom, and how to sprinkle in compassion and life skills into an already packed lesson plan. And a little bit of backstory on Rebecca. So when it comes to Rebecca's social media, most of her content centers around comedy and skits and things that real teachers see on a daily basis. And here's what I love the most about her. She humanizes the profession. You know, if you're like most people, when you were a kid, you thought teachers lived at school, didn't realize they had a life outside of school, so much so that when you saw them out at the park or the grocery store, you were like, why aren't you at school? Are you allowed to be out here? And despite all of Rebecca's fame, her 3 million followers, her mission hasn't changed. Her goal has been and continues to be to humanize teachers and the profession of teaching. Because at the end of the day, are teachers superheroes? Yes, but you're also just people. So long story short, Rebecca is awesome, and we were so lucky to have her join us on the show. Without further ado, here was my conversation with Rebecca Rogers. Hi, Rebecca. Welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You're great. But you put
We're
out
like the same person.
We are, and I cannot wait to meet you. I should say, just for like the podcast listeners to know, that we have never met in real life.
No, but we will. We 100% will.
Okay, let's get into it. So, Rebecca, you're not only a teacher, but also, if I may, a social media sensation. So you make comedy content for a wide audience of teachers and students around the world. Tell us, we want to know how and when and why did you start creating content on social media?
Fall 2020, I was completely virtual. Schools were shut down and my kids were so sad. I had no kids turning cameras on or anything like that. They didn't really want to have side conversations. You know, high school kids usually love to derail class, and it wasn't even happening. I've never had issues bonding with kids before, connecting with kids, but this whole situation was just a different monster altogether. And I was desperate to find some way to bond with them, and just like they sounded so sad, and I wanted them to not be as sad. I mean, obviously I couldn't change the lockdowns. I couldn't get rid of COVID, but I wanted to find something to just brighten their days a little bit. And I tried a lot of different things, a couple different things. I tried games, I tried talking to them more, and nothing was working. And I finally just asked, when you do have side conversations, you want to talk about TikTok? Is that something like, should I download that? Should I start posting on that? What do you guys think? And they were so excited. I'd never seen this group of kids so excited before. They chose my username, our Rogers World. And then they just started giving me little mini appropriate trends to do. And one day some kid said something really funny in class. It was just silly. And she was just confused. And they asked me, Ms. Rogers, will you tell this story on your TikTok? And obviously I asked her, like, would you be okay with that? Like, I don't want to make you uncomfortable. And she's like, no, like, you should do it. It's really funny. Like, I was just mistaken. It's a funny mistake. And I just told it. and it went viral. And then all of a sudden the kids, okay, well, I said this last week. You should tell that story. And then I started getting students from previous semesters and previous years. And then I just started getting teachers from all over the world sending me stories. I had teachers from New York, from California, from England, from Vietnam, all sending me stories that they wanted me to turn into skits. And that was really cool. It was really cool.
That is really cool. So you found a way to use social media to connect with your students and to the wider world. But there's more to it than that. There are other things to consider when being active on social media as a teacher. So I want to get into that.
There are a lot of teachers out there who see social media as like a lot of noise. There are other teachers who are curious about it, but haven't, dabbled yet. What do you see as the pros and cons of teachers using social media professionally?
There's always going to be social media platforms trending and some that are popular, and they'll fade in and they'll fade out. And I feel like as teachers, if you want to continue to find ways to connect to your kids, you have to kind of be up to date on that. What are they using? What's kind of going on? It doesn't even have to be that serious. Like, it's not like you have to sit there and research it every week, but just to kind of know what's going on in their lives, what's important to them. I mean, how are you supposed to really connect and bond with them if you don't know anything about what they're interested in, And so I don't even think that teachers have, you don't have to post anything, but to just kind of be aware.
And what would you say to teachers who might want to actually post and get involved doing something like what you do, which is like sharing out content related to teaching, but they might have worries about it, downstream impacts of admin getting concerned? Or how would you talk to them about your experience of just like being authentic in social media?
I think at the end of the day, everyone has their own boundaries, different school districts and school systems and admin and things like that. Everyone's going to have their own boundaries. And also remember that no matter what, it doesn't matter who you are, there's going to be people that hate everything that you put out. It is what it is, whether they are some kind of administrator or parent. And I think it just depends on, what you want, what your goals are. There are plenty of parents who love what I do and think it's so awesome and so great. There are some parents that think I'm a monster, and I've decided that's okay. Again, it just depends on what your personal boundaries are, what you're wanting, and what you're comfortable with.
You said you've gotten criticism. What have been some of the critiques that you've gotten?
I started my platform just, making my kids laugh. They gave me stories, asked me to use stories that happened to them. I had one lady tell me that I was emotionally traumatizing them by making stories about them. And I'm like, this kid literally begged me for 3 weeks to use his story. Like, you don't know, you don't know what you're talking about. At the end of the day, the whole goal was to make my kids laugh. And it's just gone from making 100 kids laugh to making 3 million kids laugh. And I don't care if they're 10, 15, or 40 years old. They're my kids.
Yeah. Well, speaking of age, how old were you when you first stepped into the classroom?
I was 22.
So quite young.
Yeah.
A lot of new teachers struggle to find their voice and their teaching persona. What is one piece of advice that you could give teachers starting out to help them find their voice?
First things first, the biggest lesson I learned when I first started teaching is that your department chair and other veteran teachers are probably great teachers, but that doesn't mean that what they do is going to work with your personality and your style of teaching. I personally like to teach through games and simulations. That doesn't mean everyone is going to enjoy them. That doesn't mean all teachers are going to enjoy that. It doesn't mean all teachers are going to execute it the same way. Find your style, what works for you. And that could take a year. It could take 3 years. It's not a race. It's a marathon.
So true. Finding your unique teaching style is not a race. It's a marathon. Okay, well, technically marathons are races, but you get the point. Just don't forget that when it comes to teaching, you're playing the long game. Okay, now back to the conversation.
Let's talk tech. Tech-assisted teaching can improve student learning. But of course, every new software, every new product entails a learning curve and some kind of transition for the teacher and for the students. So as a teacher, how do you decide when and how to use technology in the classroom?
I think there's a fine line between, hey, this is helpful and hey, this is just flashy. I think, when online learning started, all the schools were like, oh, hey, here's all the options that you can make your slideshows super interactive and do this and do that. And it was cool and all. But in all honesty, it was going to take me way too long to learn how to use everything and figure out how to incorporate it than just finding one or two things that worked for me, still made it interactive, and I could call it a day. I think finding something that will enhance their learning is so much more important than just finding something that is flashy to say that you're using technology. So for example, I really like using YouTube 360. It's really cool letting the kids really see where we're learning about and be able to visualize it. And it's a way that I could incorporate technology. It's something really cool. It's one thing that I learned how to use that I could teach my students how to use, and it enhances learning. I don't need all the bells and whistles in the PowerPoint. That was one way that I can incorporate technology, advance lessons a little bit, and really help the kids.
Okay. Side note, if you haven't checked out YouTube 360, I highly recommend you do. It's free. Just search for it online. It's called YouTube 360. And here's how you can use it. So if you're teaching, say, a cultural lesson about Mexico in your Spanish class, there's a panoramic exploration of the capital, Mexico City, that is, get this, an interactive video tour of the city that allows students to swipe around the city in a 360 panorama as they fly over the city's main landmarks. I went down a real rabbit hole with this one, and I can say with a high degree of confidence, I don't care what language you teach, I bet there's some content on there for you to share with your students. So if you're teaching Japanese, for example, there's a YouTube 360 video that takes you on a tour to Tokyo Tower, through Nara Park, and up and down the turns and twists of the famous Angel Road. It is a super cool tool. And if you're looking for some other cool classroom technology, might I suggest checking out Mango Language's language learning platform, which offers over 70 language courses that are full of engaging self-guided learning opportunities and a personalized review system, among many other cool features. And the best part, it's a really easy technology to integrate and incorporate into your classroom. And as Rebecca already pointed out, and we're going to talk about it a little bit more, having that ease of integration with technology is so important for effective teaching and effective learning.
Did you ever feel that technology overwhelm during that time when all those resources were being thrown at you?
Yes, because it was just so much, and I know the schools were really scrambling to try and help us and make us feel like we had all these options. But at the end of the day, there was just so much. I didn't even know where to start. I know that the districts were really just trying to make teachers feel like they had options, but it was so overwhelming to me. And I ended up not using most of what they sent out because I couldn't do it. And I did kind of take my own route when it came to technology and online learning. I made animated content videos for my kids, and they took hours. And I know not every teacher was going to be able to do that. Not every teacher knew how to use the video editing software. Not every teacher had the time. If I had kids, there was no way that I would be able to dedicate 18 hours for one episode. Absolutely no way. And so I just kind of did what worked for me and what worked for my kids. But that doesn't mean that anyone doing more or less was any better or worse as a teacher. It was just what was possible for us in the situations that we were living in.
Exactly. Do what you can with what you know. Now, there's another part of Rebecca's teaching experience that I really wanted to ask her about. And this has to do with her switching schools, because she taught at two different schools that were very, very different. And that switch allowed her to change the way she approached teaching. It changed her teaching philosophy. So here's what Rebecca said when I asked her about how her teaching philosophy has shifted over the years.
Originally, when I started, I know that I wanted my goal to be helping kids take control of their futures, helping kids to connect with the curriculum. I really wanted to make it relevant to them, important to them, and help them figure out how it could apply to their life. And that was really important to me. I started at a very, very affluent school. So in all reality, when it came to mixed classes of like honors versus academic, I might have had 3 kids that were not honors kids. It was a very, very high achieving school, like almost in a toxic kind of way. And not even almost, it wasn't a toxic way, 100% way. The expectations were crazy. The kids were so competitive with each other that it kind of spilled into the teachers also. And that's kind of where that idea of, well, let's help the kids, kind of try and take control of their futures. Because that's all the kids were worried about anyways, was, am I going to get into this Ivy, or what college am I going to go to? And then when I went to my second school, it was like night and day. And the school itself was pretty night and day. You had kids who went home to a house with a 4-car garage, and you also had kids who did not have a home to go to at the end of the school day. And that was really, that really changed my perspective. Because yes, the kids that were ready and able to look forward to their future, yeah, absolutely, I wanted to help them feel in control and to make the content feel relative to their lives. But I also just wanted to create a safe space for my kids to know that you were safe here, you were loved here. If whatever you needed, tell me what you need, and I'm going to do what I can to make it happen. Whatever you have going on at home, I want to make you feel warm and safe. It's all about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If the kids' basic needs are not being met, there's absolutely no way that learning about the Renaissance is going to have they're not going to have any idea what I'm talking about, because they're not going to be able to pay attention. They're not going to be able to retain that. I'm sorry, I have a cat hair on my nose and I'm I can't find it. It's somewhere on my face, and I'm sitting here. I'm wow, I've been scratching my face for a while. I should probably explain why. I cannot find it. My cats just shed like nobody's business, but it's okay. That's fine. They're just a part of me.
Yeah, you can't hear it because I had myself muted, but I was cracking up this whole time. I gotta say, that cat hair was a lot like French vowels, all over the place, yet absolutely impossible to pin down.
Being at a school where kids' basic needs were not being met for a good percentage of them, it really changed what I needed to focus on. And sorry, it's really distracting. I cannot find. I was holy, I tried to ignore it for a second, and I was nope, that's not going to happen.
Oh my gosh, this is the perfect example of what you're literally talking about right now. If you have a need,
yes, it really is. This has to be in it. You cannot cut any of this. It is just having a freaking cat hair on the side of my nose itching the crap out of me. I can't focus on even what I'm talking about. Those kids that don't have a roof over their head, don't have electricity, don't have food at home, they cannot focus on school. And yeah, of course, there are some kids that are super fortunate and don't have those problems, and I can focus on other things with them. But yes, some kids needed some support and other kids needed something completely different from me. And that's what being a teacher is.
As a teacher, we might go into the classroom thinking we have one goal and we wear this one main hat. But the reality is you end up wearing so many hats. You can almost get cognitive dissonance where you're what is my actual role here? What was I hired to do? What should I be doing? What do I want? So how did you manage all of these different hats in one job?
Honestly, I just took it one step at a time. What do my kids overall need on this day? And sometimes that would be the lesson that I spent a long time planning and figuring out. And sometimes that would be a catch-up day. We all look very stressed out and overwhelmed and overworked. You know what? We're going to put everything to the side. We're going to play catch-up day.
A lot of teachers get overwhelmed thinking how am I going to adjust to my individual learners when I'm only one person? So how did you approach that in the classroom?
I honestly asked the kids, what do you need from me? How can I best support you? And sometimes a kid was oh, I'll just let you know if I have extra questions, if I'm really struggling, or, hey, can I actually finish this at home and turn it in the morning? Hey, can I just go get some water, take a walk to the water fountain and come back? I honestly just asked them, what do you need from me? Because I could think, hey, this is something really helpful. This is going to get them through the day, and it's actually detrimental to them. And so I learned that, when I assume, oh, this is going to be helpful to them or that's going to be helpful to them, that's not always the case. Just asking them straight up, what do you need from me is always the first step. It's not always an option to do exactly what they want, but let's see what we can make work to help you. They're like, oh, what do you need right now? Oh, I need to sleep the entire period. We can't sleep in class every day. What can we do instead? Or if they're like, I really need to eat something right now. And I don't let food in my classroom. I've had too many kids put sticky wrappers into textbooks. I've had to clean up half-eaten fruit off the floor. Like, it's gross. We don't do food in my classroom. I can't let you eat your lunch in my room right now. I know you're really hungry. I can give you a hall pass. You can take a walk and you can eat your granola bar in the hallway.
You're right. It's not always the case that you ask the student and then you're like, yep, I will grant whatever it is that you're asking for. No homework for a year.
Right.
It's smart to be like, this is what's possible. What about this? And then they learn how to negotiate things out in the real world.
Life skills.
Life skills, indeed. Just as much as teachers help students learn core content, we're also there to guide them as they acquire these key life skills. Well, Rebecca, we are almost at the end of our show, if you can believe it. Do you have any final words of wisdom for our teachers listening?
Your best is enough, and it is okay to put it away and relax at home. And I know that's so much easier said than done, but I think you deserve it.
Well, we've reached the end of the show. It was a pleasure to have you on the show, Rebecca. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
How can our listeners find you?
I am R. Rogers World on TikTok and Instagram. And I think it's just Rebecca Rogers on YouTube and Facebook. And yeah, those are all the places to find me.
Well, thank you so much. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day and your week.
I hope you do as well.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Well, that was my conversation with high school teacher and social media content creator, Rebecca Rogers. Speaking of social media, if you'd like more fun language teacher content like this, you can follow us at Mango Languages on your favorite social media platform, or all of them. And if you're looking for easy-to-use classroom enrichment software, then check out the link in the description for Mango Languages' language learning platform. Like I said earlier, it's really awesome, and I think you're going to fall in love with it. If you liked today's episode, let us know by giving us a like, a follow, or a review. I appreciate you. Well, that's all for this episode of Teaching Languages Today. Until next time, live large and language on. Bye. This episode was hosted, produced, and edited by me, Dr. Emily Sabo. Our production manager is Dr. Erica Catregli. And our audience was... Oh, wait, that's you. Thank you so much.